Hola, mi gente. What's up? What's up? Welcome to another episode of On the Block with Jen, not to be confused with Objections, which is a show I do with Talk with Frank Gooden. That is not this, so don't get them confused. This is just On the Block with Jen. The other show is Objections. So welcome, welcome, welcome. As you see in the caption, and you know how I do, I get right into it. Is LGBTQ plus bullying Dave Chappelle at this point? Are they bullying Dave Chappelle at this point? And is he their favorite target? Now, don't get offended just yet because I'm going to say a lot more things that are more juicier and may get you more offended. So, get offended in pieces. This is going to be a good one. So, if you've been under a rock, you haven't seen The Closer on Netflix. The Closer is allegedly, supposedly, Dave Chappelle's last stand-up special with Netflix, but you never know. 5 years from now, he may say, hey, I want to do another deal, right? And there's lots of money to be made, so Netflix I'm sure, is going to greet him with open arms. But there was tons and tons of backlash, right? And I cannot do this show legitimately without a comedian on the panel, so I'm going to introduce to you comedian Carlos Anthony out of Las Vegas, who hosts his own show out here in Vegas. And I need his opinion because I'm funny, but I don't do stand-up comedy, right? So here comes comedian Carlos Anthony.
Hey. So we doing, brother?
Block. I'm gonna need a little more enthusiasm than that.
Hey, listen, I'm saving my energy for a show I have tonight. But I'm whole on the block down. I got you. We ready to go.
Thank you. Welcome. You are my favorite comedian. Number 2 is Chris Rock. I'm sorry, it's not Chappelle. It is Chris Rock. But you are number 1. Rock is 2. I may be a little biased, but whatever.
Okay, I'll take that.
Okay, just letting you know. I wanted to have you on the panel because I like having discussions about subjects with a professional regarding that subject. Like I told the audience, I don't do stand-up comedy. I hear I'm funny, but stand-up comedy is an amazing, what I mean? I'm enamored and I adore comedians. It is a skill. It is not easy. I'm an actress, but it's not like acting because, with acting, we get to mess up and there are different takes, right? And there's a lot of preparation, but you guys have to get up on stage and tell an entire audience what you thought was funny, right?
That's
and
correct.
then hopefully they think it's funny.
Right? That is the lifestyle of a comedian, in a nutshell.
Okay, in a nutshell. Okay, cool. So have you seen, before we even get started, because one of the biggest issues with social media, as we know, the angry mobs, right? A lot of people commenting on Dave Chappelle's The Closer haven't seen it. They haven't watched it, right? Sometimes the captions are juicy enough. Sometimes the beef that the LGBTQ plus community has with certain content is enough, and people just create content on their own from the content that someone else created, but they don't take the time to watch what we're talking about. So have you seen The Closer?
Of course. I am a Dave Chappelle fan, but I did watch it objectively. Is just someone who's not only a fan, but someone who could step out of that comic realm and just look at it from a non-objective perspective. So yes, I did see it.
Now let me ask you this, because I'm interested in that thought right there. You watched it objectively. Why did you even sit to watch it objectively? Why didn't you sit thinking, I'm just going to be entertained and laugh if it's funny?
Because I was aware of everything that was going on prior to. And so I wanted to take myself out of a comedian standpoint from that perspective, because comedians we look at it from the art. Most times we're trying to figure out how we can get better. We're looking at stage presence. We're looking at delivery. We're looking at the content from a comedic value. So I didn't want to personally take that route this go around because I kind of had an idea of what it was going to be about, and so I sat and watched it as a regular. I don't do comedy. I'm just watching this just to see and understand what he says in this point.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, because unfortunately, due to the current environment of things, how things go viral and blow up on social media before we even get to the meat of it, I also sat down to watch, and on the back of my mind, I wasn't even thinking, hey, let me enjoy this special. I'm a fan of Chappelle, even if he's not my, you know what I mean? He's not the greatest comedian alive to me, right? You know, I had to sit myself and think, well, let me see what he said about the LGBTQ, because they're pissed off. And he better not be picking on my people. So it's like, it's sad that we go into watching things like that instead of just like, hey, I want to see Chappelle because no, don't get me wrong, Chappelle is badass. Okay, I think he's one of the greats. Okay, I just like Rock's comedy delivery better, but Chappelle is, I don't even have to say, it goes without saying, you know, how great he is. But I had to sit and watch it with that chip on my mind. And this is how we're influenced as a people with the exposure to social media, that we already go into it feeling a certain way, because we don't like, if you're a halfway decent person, you don't want to hear that people are being abused, right? Or down on, that word's going around now, or talk down to or of, or, you know, anything like that. So I'm like, I went into it thinking, is he talking about the LGBTQ again? Why doesn't he leave them alone? What is going on, right? So I'm coming in with that. So I can't even lie, I had a biased opinion going in, which is really, really bad. And you have to catch yourself. You have to watch, listen, and read things for yourself. So I confess, I walked into it, sat down on the couch like, with the side eye, right? And that's not good, mi gente. That's not good. So, did you, let's just get right into it.
Let's go. Let's go with it.
Did you hear anything that you were offended by for someone else? Because a lot of us are offended for other people.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing going on right now is people being offended for somebody else. But we'll get back to that later. I did not hear, to answer the question, I did not hear anything. And again, taking the comic hat off and just being someone who was watching the special and saying, okay, am I going to get something out of this that's going to be offensive? I did not hear anything that he said that was offensive to anyone else that I feel like should have some sort of protection. I believe that the LGBTQ, they have several other letters, communities should be protected. I mean, from physical harm and or the insinuation of physical harm. I believe children should be protected, elderly should be protected, women should be protected. And then, of course, that everybody should have some level of comfort in their life where they can walk out of their doors without the fear of harm coming to them. So with regards to his special, and specifically with regards to the LGBTQ community, I did not hear anything that I found to be offensive.
Okay. So I'll second that, right? With that said, just because I wasn't offended, right? And I'm a hard nut to crack. Just because I wasn't offended doesn't mean that we have to invalidate someone who was offended. And even with that said, I think we've gotten to be a very, very soft society.
Very much so.
That doesn't mean that, hey, if it offended you, great. I didn't hear anything that offended me. But then people automatically say, well, are you part of this community? Maybe that's why you're not offended. And I was like, wait. This is what I don't like. Honestly, out of the entire special, what I don't like is when he makes fun of pedophilia. That gets me. He did it this special. He did it last special. And my soft spot is children. My soft spot is children. And, you know, being molested as a child is something, if you know a little bit about it or don't or can guess, something that lasts forever, right? Ruins your life forever. So I think the most vulnerable people on the planet are children, babies that can't defend themselves. So honestly, that kind of like stings me when he's joking about pedophilia. So that, if anything, I was kind of like, oh, cringe. But I wasn't cringing for the LGBTQ plus jokes. And here's why, right? Because I'm thinking someone who had something so traumatic happen to them, like being molested as a child, if they hear Dave Chappelle say, I liked it, right? That was part of his joke. By the way, I've been molested. And I liked it. And I'm surprised that no one's addressing that after his special. I'm like, Dave Chappelle just said he was molested, right?
Here's the thing, even with that though, I don't. Now I had to put my comedic hat back on. I don't know if he's saying that about himself, be comedic. We don't. I've never heard of any story that he's ever come out and had a serious conversation about being molested. I don't know. I definitely can understand where someone can hear that and be like, oh, that one right there got me. But I don't know if what his mindset was when he wrote that about himself, because he's talking about himself. So I can understand how it could be cringeworthy. That is, again, I'm not a fan of pedophilia. I don't condone it. I don't co-sign it. I don't do anything of that nature. But I could definitely understand where there would be something that's cringeworthy.
That gets me. It got me the first time, and it got me this time. I'm like, oh, stay off of pedophilia. But he went there. I took it as he was talking about himself, but maybe I don't know Chappelle, so maybe he was just throwing a general joke out there. But it sounded like he was talking about himself, and then he was like, "I don't feel sorry for me. I liked it." So I was like, "Oh, that's not cool. Like pedophilia ruins lives. Like how is this funny, right?" But hey, the crowd was laughing, so obviously somebody found it funny, albeit it's Dave Chappelle, and he could burp on stage and everybody will be doubled over because you're watching Chappelle, right? Not like your cousin telling a joke. So that bothered me. As far as the trans jokes, this is just my point of view. Again, I'm not speaking for the LGBTQ community because I appreciate them, but I'm not a part of their community, so I can't say what they should be offended by or not offended by, right? I have friends in that community who talk worse about LGBTQ than heterosexuals do. And then I have friends in that community who get offended when you come for them. So, it's all over the place as far as that goes. I can't speak for them. I'm not part of that community. I'm just giving my POV. Specifically, what they want him canceled for and why they want the show pulled off of Netflix is because they feel he is promoting violence towards transgender women, specifically transgender Black women, at a time where most of them are being abused and murdered at a high rate. So that is their issue. They feel like the more he jokes about it and makes light about it, you're putting them in a vulnerable spot. Now, here's the kicker. I thought, and I may get backlash for this, but come at me, bro. I thought that he humanized transgender women. I thought he humanized them. I thought his stand-up evoked empathy. And some people would be like, no, it was just, that's what I felt, right? I was like, okay, now it's getting to the point where Chappelle is just a storyteller. Like there, it's like he's a storyteller with jokes as a chaser now, where before he was just comedy. Now I feel like I'm sitting with an elder and he's telling me his experiences and what he feels about life. That's how I felt. Like I literally felt like I was sitting on his couch and he's like, Jen, that's why I'm going to ask people to watch it. It's important. It's not your average stand-up. It is Chappelle. He is a master storyteller comedically. And it really brings you in. His story about his, I don't want to do any spoilers, but his story about his experience with transgender folk is compelling. I thought it was compelling, and I don't use that word loosely, but it's something that brings you in, and you feel like you're sitting on his couch, and you feel like he really went through these things, and you really feel like he's really feeling these things. It doesn't look like BS. It does not look like BS. I'm from New York. I could tell BS from a mile away, but it felt so sincere, right? And Chappelle's at a point where he doesn't have to lie or fabricate a persona or fabricate, feelings that he doesn't have. I thought it was very, very heartfelt. I'm like, I feel like if I was transgender, and I can't imagine it, but I feel like if I was transgender, I would have been like, wow, he's an ally, not an enemy. He's an ally. Look at the story that he told. What did you feel specifically about when he went into the transgender issue?
let's back this up because you mentioned that they stay well. I guess they feel like his special was targeting them or putting them in harm's way.
Mhm.
And again, well, I shouldn't say again. My perspective from that is, did you listen to his special? Did you actively listen to his special? And again, did you come in with your defenses, or did you come in to see what someone has to say? And you and I have talked about this offline on numerous occasions with regards to people listening because they want to respond, or listening because they actually want to understand. And if anyone, and again, I can't speak for the trans community. I am not one. I do know several. I don't, and we've had conversations before about it. But to 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 insinuate that that man, Dave Chappelle, is insinuating some type of violence towards them, then you could not have watched that special, which leads me to my feelings about what he was saying. I too feel like it was almost a plea
Mhm.
for humanity to just accept them for who they are, and that those were his experience, or his experience specifically with his friend, and what happened in the outcome or the aftermath of when that person stood up for him, who is trans. That person was trans, and again, that's that. You have to watch the special. I don't want to be the spoiler either, but you have to watch the special in order to understand his experience with a trans person.
Mhm.
That trans person stood up for him, and then the outcome of what happened to that trans person. And if you listen to that, I didn't take this, to me was not, as a Dave Chappelle fan, this to me was not a comedy special. This was more of a plea for humanity. Were there comedic moments? Of course, there were several in there that we chuckled at and we laugh at and that we can laugh at. But ultimately, the walk away, the takeaway from that for people should be to, damn, am I just being human? Am I being humane? Am I looking at people and respecting their space and their boundaries for who they are, and just moving on with my day? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And that was my takeaway from it. I don't think it was one of his best specials. I just think it was one of his most, as you used the word, compelling specials for a plea to humanity.
Welcome, guys. I see a lot of people joining us brand new. The subject is LGBTQ plus bullying Dave Chappelle at this point. If you want to join the panel, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. I will bring you on if you have an opinion. I'd love to hear it. If you want to come on the panel, let me know. Okay, comedian Carlos out of Las Vegas. What I did see humor in, and he was being facetious, but I don't know. I'm a quick study. I have a hell of a wit. So I knew what he was doing when he kept repeating, because I'm the homophobic, transphobic comedian. I think when people are constantly accusing you of something that you aren't, right? Because I know I've done it. I don't know if you've done it, but it's like, yeah, I'm the racist, right? I'm the racist or whatever, or I'm anti whatever you say I am, because it's like no matter who you are and knowing who you are, people are gonna form their own opinions, right? And sometimes you gotta let them run with it, because what are you gonna do? Fight everybody who thinks the opposite of who you really are? And I think Dave Chappelle was doing that. And I thought that was funny. Like the punchline was, yeah, because I'm the transphobic
Kept
comedian,
saying,
right?
mhm.
I thought that was very funny. But when he got to that story, man, towards the end about how he views transphobia and transgender women specifically, like you, I was like, wow, it was a plea for all of us to be human for a moment and to listen. But listening is a lost art
Very
with
much so.
with the explosion of social media and angry mobs, right? And people that like incendiary, headlines. Listening is a lost art. I've seen people blow up over a caption, right? So
Mhm.
what I also thought was very artistic and intelligent was that it wasn't just a plea for, hey, transgender women are human. What are we doing? Let's look at it this way. I didn't always look at it this way. I had a change of heart because of something horrible that happened to me in my life with one of my friends. But he also included the plight of Black people in America. And you have to really be listening. And come on, people, if you can watch, what's that show with The Family Guy. If you can watch The Family Guy, if you can watch Seinfeld, if you can watch Frasier, and understand that there are facts, right, and messages in between those lines, then you can watch Chappelle and understand what he was doing. I think it was more humanity than comedy in that special. So if you're looking for a comedy where you're going to be doubled over and slapping your knee, this
That ain't it. That ain't it.
this isn't it. This is like literally Netflix paid Chappelle to do a PSA on the plight of Black people and how it's similar to the LGBTQ, not parallel, just similar. Because I know people don't like that either, right? They automatically think that you're saying, wait a minute, 400 years of slavery is not like gay people. I know they hate when you compare. So I'm not comparing. I'm just saying that struggles and problems are similar, even though it may not be the same exact issue. And I think he did that eloquently. But this is not a slap your knee, ribs hurting comedy in any way, shape, or form. I thought it was
he again, when you make a point about who he's speaking to, if anybody, along with the pedophile joke, if anybody should be offended, or in my opinion, or be like, hey, hold on now, it should be white people, because he has a way of speaking to them and about them via the path or the journey of minorities and now trans or the LGBT community. This dude is a wordsmith, in my opinion, of how he puts those things together in order to still say, hey, but you people right there are the reason why certain things are still going on. So I get what you're saying, definitely in regards to him also outlining Black folks or minorities in general. He's a master at it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to say hi. What's up, King? What's up, Chef? Hey guys, thank you for joining us. If you want to join the panel, let me know. I'll throw the link up. We're discussing is LGBTQ plus bullying Dave Chappelle. Now let's get into that, because that's something we took the long way, but we're here. Let's have some tough talk. Right?
Go with it.
Let's have some tough talk. With this said, I empathize and sympathize. I have family and friends who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, right? I do not have to be gay in order to know that people deserve to live and love however they want. I don't get into the subject of agendas, because as far as agendas, everyone has one. Me, you, the government, YouTube, television, everyone has an agenda. And I think that you have to look out for yourself and your own. It is a part of life. Agendas are a part of life. Nike has an agenda when they use Colin Kaepernick for their sneakers. Everybody has an agenda, and no one has stopped buying Nike. So I just want to get that out the way. That is not my issue with the LGBTQ plus community. But we got to get into, are they bullying Dave Chappelle at this point? Now I'm gonna throw the link up in the comments if anybody wants to join us. But please, comedian Carlos Anthony out of Las Vegas, can you answer just generally what you feel? Is my question absurd?
No.
Or is there some reason to it?
It is definitely some reason to it. The answer to the question is yes. And it's yes for those in the LGBTQ plus community that did not watch the special, have never listened to Dave Chappelle and what he's said in general, even comedically, about the LGBTQ plus community. If you are just going off of what somebody else told you, and we live in a society now where somebody else tells us when to be bad, is we cancel culture, and we log on every day. What should I be mad about today? And then we just go with that. No facts needed.
Let me interject. What do you mean by people tell us when to be mad? Do you think that the LGBTQ plus community is telling us be mad at this?
I think that there's a section of the community that's saying yes, that you should be mad for us, or you should be mad with us about what Dave Chappelle says, because of, and it goes back to what you said earlier, because he's putting us in harm's way. And again, if you listen to the special, if you listen to what he said about LGBTQ plus people in general, even comedically, nothing that I have ever heard him say says, hey, y'all need to go out and do this, or even insinuated any kind of harm coming to anyone in that community. So yes, I believe that there is a group of people, because here's the thing with social media. Social media, the loudest person in the room gets the most attention. And right now, people love to be mad. We love to be mad about any and every goddamn thing on earth. I could say, I could post up today, I don't like chocolate chip ice cream, and there will be a flow of people that say, why don't you like it? I can't believe you don't like ice cream. And you're like, damn, I just said I don't like it. That's me. I don't like it. But that's the way we are today. So with regards to this community, being in a position where Dave Chappelle is obviously has a larger reach in his voice. When he says something, millions of people hear it. And whether you think you're the butt of the joke or not, because he makes jokes about everybody. If you think you are the butt of the joke, now I got to be offended. Or I should feel away. And you should feel away for me, because remember, I'm in the minority. And we're trying to fight to get to this point where we have equality, just like everybody else. So you gotta hurt with me, right? But then they're not listening to what he said. There was nothing in this special. If we're gonna talk about this special specifically, it was nothing in this special that led me to believe that Dave Chappelle hates trans, he hates the LGBTQ plus community, that he's against them. If anything, he showed, hey, listen, I'm actually for you. I'm speaking for you in some perspective, and letting you know this is, I get it. I get it. So as far as the bullying goes, yeah, this is the society we live in currently. I believe bullying is a huge thing, especially when it comes to social media, and people want you canceled for the most minute things in this world right now.
So I want to welcome Conversations with King.
Hey, what's up?
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How's everybody? How's everybody doing?
We're really, really good. It is a beautiful day, and we needed to discuss this because it's getting a little foggy. You know what I mean?
Right.
LGBTQ and Dave Chappelle. So Conversations with King, Conversations with a K. Please follow him. He has a great page also. Nice, grown, mature conversations going on over there. Welcome, King. Is that what you go by, King?
Yeah, you call me King. You call me King. Okay, my mother calls me Maoli, but you can call me King.
Okay. So we have Chef Choupino also on. Welcome, Chef.
That's my brother. That's my brother. We do an amazing show. It's not as amazing as yours, but we try to get on that level. But we want to say thank you. We want to thank you for inviting us, and thank you, brother, for being honest and telling your truth. I just want to throw a little pushback. Just a little pushback from a different perspective, because I like to keep it spicy, right? Okay. So, and this is for all the brothers on the stage, and you as a woman, maybe you can help us figure this out. I'm playing devil's advocate, so don't attack me. Do we as straight Black men, I'm assuming you're straight. I don't want to make the wrong assumption.
That is correct.
Because I don't want to, we as, sorry, no disrespect, brother. Trust me.
Oh no, we all good.
We as straight Black men, do we have the right to talk about issues within the LGBTQ plus community? Because that's where I think it's coming from. They're saying you're speaking for us, but you don't know our struggle on a personal level. It's like when some white counterparts might say, oh my God, you should stop killing these young Black men. And we're like, I get it, it sounds good, but do you really know how it feels, right? I love what Dave Chappelle did personally. Like I said, I put it on the chat. He showed the pros and cons of the intersectionality of struggle. Counter to what Jen was saying, we all have similar struggles, right? Whether it be genocide or the Holocaust, we don't want to compare, but we have similarities. But do we have, as straight Black men, which Dave Chappelle is, and he said, because he said he loves his wife, you watch the show,
Yeah.
He said, I don't know if I can say it on your show, but he said that, and he says, then he starts speaking in their behalf because he has friends that were trans or gay. If a white person says, I have black friends, how would you feel? Like, oh no, there's another white person says she has black friends. You don't understand what we're going through.
Okay, so Carlos, do you want to take that question? Or do you want me to take it first?
Go ahead, ladies first. Ladies first.
Thank you. So it's a great question, and it's actually a segue to something I was gonna mention anyway. Because with this subject, I'm 50-50, right? I'm like, come on, guys, are we really gonna make a big deal out of this? It's comedy, he's a comedian. And then the other half of me is like, I know I can't speak for you.
Right.
So I'm with you in that. I'm with you in that because when I hear people talking about, Latinas or growing up in the Bronx, if it's not legit what I experienced, I feel a ways. I'm like, wait a minute, you're like from Castle Hill. What do you know about the South Bronx? You can't talk for me.
Right.
But I think that's something that started with the explosion of social media, where it's like now no one can have an opinion. So we have to be careful that we don't veer into you can't have any opinion at all just because you're not part of this community, which is unrealistic. Unrealistic entirely, but I think it's been emphasized with social media. You can't talk about this one, you can't talk about that one. You better like Beyonce's wig. I like this music, you better like this, and I better not hear that you don't like this. So now it's been emphasized to the point of ridiculousness, because I think it's okay that I can have an opinion on men and not be a man. I can have another opinion on another race, even though I'm not that other race. But I can also say respectfully, I don't exactly know what you're going through because I'm not that. So that's where I am with that. Carlos, would you like to answer before we throw it back?
Yeah, most definitely. To me, it's about experience, and if we're going to keep this to this special in particular, and Dave Chappelle, I believe that if I've had detailed experiences with a person or a group of people enough to understand their plight to some degree. I could be like, hey, I understand it. I've never been through what you have been through, but conversations we have, I fully understand that and I can respect that. So if somebody comes to me and talking about you, I feel like I have an ability to speak on your behalf to some degree.
Right.
If we're talking about Dave Chappelle in this particular instance, what he's talking about, and if you watch the special, he has detailed experience with someone who was his friend,
right?
Something that went through a situation with him to the point where there was an unfortunate outcome. As someone who, if I had a friend that close and they went through something like that, you're damn right, I'm going to speak on their behalf from a humanity perspective.
Okay.
Because you own that. You never part of your life. Right.
Yeah, because that was part of my experience and my journey. Am I speaking for the entire crew? No, I cannot do that.
Right.
But from a humanity standpoint, from where I have been, then yes, I feel that I am okay to do that. Now, am I here to stomp and yell and scream for every situation that everybody goes through? No, because I don't have that breadth of experience with them. But I don't get mad when somebody else speaks up for me as well. Is if we have that type of relationship.
Okay.
Let me reply to that real quick before I throw it to the chef, because he's been patiently waiting. That's basically what I was referring to, where it's like, hey, it's gotten to the point where I can't even talk about my experiences. Like you're afraid now to talk about your experiences. What if no, I'm not a white woman. What if my best friend was white and her and I shared experiences, and now I'm talking about, her white world. Now, I got 1,000 white women on social media trying to cancel me for expressing my feelings and what I went through with her. So I'm saying that now it's getting ridiculous. Like everybody's on eggshells. And I think that's too much. And then it becomes, in my opinion, a bullying situation. Chef, you've been patient. Welcome. What do you think?
First of all, thank you for having us. And, thanks for joining our previous broadcast as well. So when we talk about it and discuss it, there's a couple of ideas or concepts that kind of popped into my head. Excuse me. It's the concept of respectful understanding and consideration versus pain appropriation. What do I mean by that? I mean that when we talk about cultural appropriation, people, of other cultures will tend to take ownership of certain aspects of a particular culture and, almost mimic it. There's ways you can have cultural consideration and respect and understanding, and without the pain appropriation. And sometimes, somebody that comes in and you see that person that maybe of a different race standing at the front, of a black protest, right? It kind of gets thrown off. Some people are thrown off by it. Some people look at them as agents. Some people, at times of war, and it's funny, King and I discussed this at one point. He's like, sometimes once it gets to a point where things are on edge or a time of conflict, what's very important is knowing who's around you at that particular time and understanding and having an unequivocal understanding of where it is in this conflict that they stand. Not knowing is not an option. So in terms of other people speaking for, just two letters will change the whole dynamic of that question. So is it speaking for or speaking up for? Speaking up for a particular person is showing them understanding, respect, and consideration for the plight and the rights that they have equal to you within this ecosystem, right? So speaking up for. Now you would remove those two letters and just say speaking for. At this point, it's hand in the back puppet talk. And I have no right to speak for that group. All I can do is quote somebody from that group that I love or have a ton of respect for, and leverage the wisdom that they've shown from their nature versus nurture and their own empirical wisdom. And if I support them and they are my trademark or the piece of me that exists within that movement, then I will humbly and respectfully support their movement in the fashion that they wish. But me speaking for them without the UP part, that's almost me patronizing them and potentially minimizing, the stream of consciousness that they're trying to purvey on others. So, speak up for versus speaking for. Those are two different things.
I have two questions for you, Chef. The first question is, can you give us an example of pain appropriation?
Pain appropriation. When you hear, some of the young college students, get some girls from Sarah Lawrence getting together and they want to use their energy and their positive vibration to do something good. I want to change the world. And what happens is, in terms of them seeking causes, they become so interwoven within the pain construct that at some point they tend to forget the place of benefit that they exist in. And it can almost be somewhat disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? If I happen to be an offspring of one of the DuPonts or the Rockefellers, or I'm what's his name? Jeff Bezos' son. I'm Chef Bezos. And then now I'm chilling with the homies in Brownsville. And I'm like, damn, man, I'm hungry, man. Oh, man. Damn, man, I got to get it out the mud. Yeah, man, it ain't right. It's disrespectful. It's buffoonish. And if not leveraged in the right way, you look like a fraud, and it takes away from the true struggle that those other people are experiencing.
Right.
So it reminds me of the movie Malcolm X, when the white woman came up to him and was like, I really like your cause. What can I do for you? He's like, nothing.
Right.
That reminds me. My second question to you, Chef, is did you see The Closer?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like Chappelle was speaking up or just speaking of?
So first things first, I want to make sure that folks understand my positioning in terms of the comment. Do I consider him a GOAT? Yes, I do. All right, that's one thing. So there's a clear line of what I see he does as a comedian, and the way he leverages humor, but he leverages real situational dynamics and is able to juxtapose your camera lens in a way to see it from a crazy perspective where it's like, oh shit,
Right.
I didn't think about it. What he does, the least part is the comedian finding the shtick within what it is. But what he's done was been able to bravely go in and show us a funny, sometimes some maybe offensive to some, but show us a totally different lens perspective. He changed the lens on you where it's gonna make you laugh. One of the funniest jokes that he said was, listen, my trans folks, I don't have no problem with you. I don't hate trans folks. I never had any issue with you guys. I mean, if you really pay attention to all my stuff, the folks I had an issue with was the whites, right? He said, because y'all have an opportunity to change the game and y'all play with the rules and switch the rules, and white, he says, he did a skit, he was like, yeah, F you, whitey. He was like, yeah, F you, nigga. He's like, F you, whitey. And dude was like, I'm a girl now and you can't talk to me like that. So he was like, yo, all of a sudden now they flipped and co-opted the movement now so that it creates an additional layer of safety. That was one of the funniest jokes to me, but he's a genius because at the end of the day, in order to make progress in any kind of thing, any kind of conflict, there has to be a level of comfort in discomfort. Discomfort creates a level of noise, a level of a level of dissonance that's going to force people to focus their ears, react or rebut what's being said, and a true conversation is able to come forth from it. So just like when you get medicine, yeah, that needle hurts when it's going in, but we understand that there's something that's going to be flowing forth from that needle, which is positive. So I believe that the fact that he's even bringing this stuff up and allowing us to have that conversation, it was pretty brave, and he was a pioneer, and he was beautifully able to figure out some comedic way, even if considered offensive to some, ruffle feathers. What happens when you ruffle a bird's feathers? The feathers lift, it exposes their pores,
right,
and they're able to absorb more, so sometimes you got to ruffle those feathers. You got to scream for somebody to focus on what you're saying.
King?
Yeah, I want to say something. I want to say that I kind of want to thank Dave Chappelle for teaching us something that we all know, but particularly the Black community fails to express often. The Black community, at least from what I perceive, expects a level of reciprocity when it comes to struggle. And he's saying, what I got from it was, you're foolish if you think because you march with them, they're going to march with you. And if you notice, it kind of like when the LGBTQ plus community, they gather up with Black women for marches. But then when a young black kid, woman, a young Black child is shot, we don't see them marching with us. But we expect them to. And I think Dave Chappelle is saying, hold up. Now you see, when they need us for the numbers, we all cool. There's that intersectionality of pain and struggle. But when we're affected and it's not pertaining to what they have going on, they won't be around. And I'm glad he pointed that out. I'm glad he showed that, listen, stop expecting people to march with you or rally with you or protest with you because you protest with them. And that's what I got from the comedy special.
So let me, because I play cards with the devil too.
Yeah.
Let me advocate for him really quickly.
Right.
As far as that goes, right? Every tribe, right, minds their tribe, right? Like Asians have Asians' best interest in heart. Latinos have Latinos' best interest. Black people, white people. Is it unrealistic, this plight that Black people have, where it's like, well, you know, you guys should be like, you know, coming through for us? Because I don't see, you know, masses of Black women fighting for white women's rights. I haven't seen that. No, I've seen a sprinkle of Black women standing with white women, and then vice versa.
Right.
But you don't think it's kind of unrealistic to expect like everyone to come running, you know what I mean, the Black Lives Matters, or everybody to come running when white women, you know, in Hollywood say, hey, Harvey Weinstein touched me, or, you know, everybody to go running to fight about the Mexican children at the border, when all the tribes naturally, innately, right, stick to their own tribes? Why is it that Black people seem like it's like, no, you guys got to come help us because we've been through the most? Do you think that's realistic, expecting the tribes?
Well, in regards to that, everybody has their group of interests, aka their tribe, right? But here's what the issue comes in. This is why I respect you and the comedian, because I was listening for the first 15 minutes, and you said the main thing. You're coming from a humanitarian standpoint. Wrong is wrong. I don't care if they're beating up the Haitians crossing the border, or they're trying to prevent women from getting abortions in Texas. Wrong is wrong. Oppression is oppression. When do we separate pain? When do we separate struggle? At some point, the only way we're going to get together is when everybody starts to feel the next man's pain, even though they're not in their lives. Andrew Cuomo, I think Governor Cuomo's brother said one time, he said it literally, he says, white people won't get or understand how it feels until their children get shot and killed by cops. That's what he said. It's a humanitarian thing. It's not a Black, Latino, gay community thing. It's a wrong is wrong. So I'm just encouraging people to say, you know what? I get the tribe thing, I get it. I get the groups of interest. But when are we going to have this common denominator that the comedian was talking about earlier about being humanitarians? That's my biggest issue.
That's a great question. And I'll throw it to you, comedian Carlos. That's a great question, but I think that as far as the humanitarian factor, I can be very heartbroken and cry about Trayvon Martin. It doesn't mean that I have to be out there marching and wearing a hoodie. Like, I can feel for that as a mother, as a woman. I could be like, oh my God, and I can cry about the Haitian. But do I have to be out there to show that, you know, do I have to like leave my tribe and join another tribe to show it's like, oh, look, compassion?
I wouldn't say you have to leave, but it has to be like the reason why I love this world we live in today. There's so many ways to protest. You could donate, you could post up a picture, you could do something. But when you have silence, that's a big issue. Do something. You don't have to be on the front lines, but do something.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And I also want to say that a lot of people are criticized if they don't protest the way someone else protests.
No.
And I encourage people, I don't care if it's a picture, I don't care if it's a caption, I don't care if it's a post,
yes.
I don't care if it's sharing a story. You're doing enough. Everybody's out there with the picket signs, right? Walking from miles. So whatever you do, continue doing it, even if it's a little bit, it's something. Comedian Carlos, what did you want to add?
I think there's a thought process amongst all of us who've been through a struggle, is that everybody should feel my pain and join me in the masses to support my pain. And unfortunately, we don't live in that type of world, especially in this country. And that's the reality of it all. Everyone jumps on situations. I shouldn't say everyone. Groups of people jump on bandwagon situations just because of what's going on at that particular time. And that's my opinion of it. We have to stop expecting everybody to join forces with us just because we did something for them. That's not going to happen from white people. It's not going to happen across the board based off of everything that we've seen. And would we like it? Of course. But I think we're in a position now where I'm one of those people who I'm gonna work with who's gonna work with me.
Right.
Be down for who's gonna be down for me. I'm not going out to panhandle for you to understand what I'm going through, especially if I got to beat you over the head in order for you to really get to that point where you like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get in. No, either you in or you out. It's very black and white for me. So
I got a question for you.
Huh?
I'm about to try and drag you non-violently into a gray area, Carlos.
All right,
So, and I'm gonna give you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna kind of give you a metaphor. You have your kids at the crib. They're hungry. Your wife and your kids, they're hungry. And you send one of your kids out to go grab you some groceries because your family is hungry. On the way back from coming to grab the groceries, there's the kids down the block family. They're hungry. So now your kid siphons off some of the slices of bread, gives it to them, some of the pieces of cold cut, and literally gives out some of your groceries that were meant for you. Or let's say somebody sent it as a gift for you, a gift that you requested. But on the way to you, other folks were able to benefit from it, right? So the reason I brought that metaphor up was, or analogy up, was because of the fact that you go back to 1964, you know, and they talked about the greatest generation and all of that. Listen, the civil rights movement was co-opted. The civil rights movement was something that was brought up as a way to defeat, you know, Jim Crow, and it was a process that was there to benefit us, right? And it wasn't even people of color, it was Black people, because we were the ones that were going through the situations at that time. Our movement was co-opted where in order to get more support in terms of the votes, they co-opted with the feminist movement as well. That's why when you start to look and you start to see, you know, after affirmative action, which was supposed to be a balancing tool, you started seeing multiple created protected classes. And in the co-opting of the civil rights movement, instead of it being for Black people, it became people of color, and then it began to move into other ethnicities. That's why when you look now at different things that are available for people of color, it's actually inclusive. And I don't have an issue about anything being inclusive. I'm just speaking to the stream of consciousness, of feeling and emotion. The thing is, something that was meant for us, that people fought for, it was co-opted also by other groups that were able to generate some sort of benefit. So now when somebody says, well, damn, after all of this, you know what I'm saying? Here's another analogy. Damn, bro, I let you ride in the freaking Uber with me and I can't even get a sandwich. You know, folks jumped on the ride. They jumped on the ride, and it's almost as though we didn't receive any benefit from the ride, but we got bruised from several of the bumps in the ride, because by some point too, one of the waves of feminism also did have a particular impact on family construct. I'm not trying to go too deep down a rabbit hole now, but I definitely understand that, you know, that process, it wasn't totally fair for the folks that were the ones it was meant for. So when somebody says you guys ain't marching for us, I'm like, yo, how the hell you think you got your rights? You rode the Uber with me, you know? Right. So in terms of reciprocity, it's not always a thing. Sometimes it's a feeling. It's just like a relationship. Your lady does something, you do something. If she doesn't feel that, you know, that you're doing as much, or that if you had the opportunity to, you would, that's going to throw a whole different mix, because there's a lack of reciprocity. Right. You know what I'm saying? You want to do for someone that's done for you. It's a natural thing. So
but
even you put yourself in a position of need, and then they leave you hanging. Go ahead.
But even if they don't do it for you, you still want to set the example that they should, if they're given a chance. Jen, Carlos, if you had children and I was walking down the block and I saw a pedophile or a rapist trying to attack your child, and I say, you know what, that's not my child, and you found that out, you might hurt me. You might hurt me, or you're going to say, oh, okay, I understand. You might hurt me because that's not my child doesn't mean I'm not there to protect that child, because one day I might need you to protect my child. So this is why I said there has to be some type of reciprocity and accountability.
I understand that. So here's let's not change the narrative with regards to the questions. If I see something that like of what you said in happening before my very eyes,
right?
You white, black, green, or alien, whatever. My job is to protect that child, or protect that elderly, or protect that woman, or protect that man. For lack of better words, I'm not thinking in that point of my mind, oh, I ain't gonna do that. I ain't getting involved because they're not my people. That's not. Yeah, I don't want to even remotely insinuate that. What my thing is we have to stop worrying about who is riding in the car if we ain't even driving in the straight position. When I say that, I mean specifically is we have our own set of issues within our own community that we need to be addressing for us, that I think is a bigger issue right now than worrying about if white folks are supporting our movement. And I know we change on a lot of different things, different topics from what we started here.
Right.
But I'm concerned with what white folks are, if they own the ship or not. With me, I want to know what my people are on doing with us. So when I say that, and I don't know how we got to this perspective here, but,
right?
The chef dragged us here.
Right.
I just want to make it clear from my perspective. I'm not worried about who's with me if you ain't with me. And when I say that, I mean we're all in the same mindset that we're trying to get equal rights. We're trying to make sure our kids are protected, our women are protected, things of that nature. If we on that same ship, then I'm cool. But I'm not going out and trying to knock down every door to figure out if you cool or not, because you know what the movement is by now.
Right. But who here's the question: who are we getting equal rights from?
We fight for equal rights from those that are in charge, the majority.
Why are we fighting for equal rights?
Say that again.
Why are we fighting for equal rights?
Because we've never had it.
We don't have it because we're not empowered. That means my thing is, why are we fighting for? Why are we asking somebody for rights? I'm confused.
I ain't asking nobody for nothing.
You get what I'm saying? Like, we're still asking a government or a nation to be treated fairly. And based on how you're thinking, you're saying, well, I don't care what they're doing. We got to get together ourselves. But yeah, but clearly the masses don't think like that, because we're still asking for equal rights.
What you're talking about right now is the biggest question of why we cannot get on the same page as a people.
Right.
I'm not concerned with what this government does. I'm not concerned with what white folks do. I'm concerned about what we are doing as a people, and are we moving forward collectively? And we're not even like this right now. You have a group over here, you got a group over here, and this is take this back to the question of the LGBTQ plus. Because we are trying, even they are trying to say, hey, can we all be together? And y'all understand our role here, and we can't even agree to that. Is saying, hey, I'm just going to treat you humanely. And we are on that same path together. We on the same path from trying to get to humanity together, to have some sense of humanity together.
Right.
We all over the board right now.
Right, but they have the right. I think the LGBTQ plus. I'm glad I said it because I have a list. I'm surprised I got that through. But at the end of the day, I think they have the right to ask that because we have membership in the community.
So do we.
Right. We have. So this is what I'm saying. Like, if we don't get there together, we're in trouble, because it has to be a human thing. Because we have blacks in their community, and they have their members in our community. So there's no way we can separate each other. And this is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, we're marching to get rights from a government that is a patriarchal government run by older white men. We're asking permission to be free. I don't want to say, I went to Columbia University, Boston College, but I never read any group of people that got their freedom for free. There was some type of bloodshed or some type of resistance I'm not promoting that. Please trust me, I'm not promoting that. But
well, I'll promote it for you. I promote it.
Go ahead, because I'm already got. I'm on probation. I can't.
I will promote it because that's unfortunate.
Yeah, no. When I get off probation, I'm on your side. Let me get off of that because they got.
All right, get off that. Then come on. I promote.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. We're asking people peacefully to give us freedom when clearly through the Dave Chappelle show, let's go back to the main issue, is showing that there are people that have invested interest in the separation.
Most definitely.
And we have to address those issues. But that's why I said the only silver bullet for separation is togetherness, which is humanity, right? That's the only way. But I get what you're saying, because if you come from the school of Dr. Martin Luther King, the very last thing Dr. Martin Luther King said at the end, before he died, he said, I have led my people into a burning house of integration. When he said that, it wasn't just talking about the Black economy. He was talking about everything.
Correct.
So I understand what you're saying, Carlos, but we're so tied in with every community. We can't go nowhere if we don't go together. That's what I'm trying to figure out how we're going to do this.
Yeah, here's the reason why I say I can only speak for me. I'm only concerned with those individuals or group of people who are concerned with us getting there together. And when we become those type of people, we're interested in getting there together versus you do your little bit over here and I'm gonna do my little bit over here and then y'all whatever y'all. We got a long road to haul right now. It's a long road to haul, and it's unfortunate to say, but until people's minds start really getting together and thinking together as one, it's an uphill battle for us.
I agree with you, Carlos, because it's like, going back to what King said, there are people with vested interest in the division, but even in our own community, there are people creating environments in our own communities where it benefits them to keep us divided, men, women, you know what I'm saying?
Advocacy groups.
Right? People that went to this school versus people that went to this school. There are, that's why I mentioned earlier, agendas are everywhere. So going back to, is LGBTQ plus bullying Dave Chappelle? I know you answered that, Carlos. I'd like to hear just straight answers, gentlemen. Chef, do you think that at this point the LGBTQ plus is bullying Dave Chappelle?
No. Damn, I can't. I'm trying to fight it by giving you one word answer. The answer is no, because at this point they're speaking outrage, and it almost seems as though upset individuals within the community are speaking out. But do I believe that it's a specific concerted effort? No, I don't think so. I believe that you have voices within the LGBTQ plus, thank you, community. They're speaking out, but I honestly believe that they're conflicted on this one, especially after the others. I punch you in the arm now. I punch you in the arm another time. By the time the seventh or eighth punch, numbness has set in and you may not feel it anymore. Sticks and stones. I think that Dave kind of led them progressively, or what we call cumulative understanding, growth of understanding, and he ramped it up with each one. So now with this one being the show closer, right? I think he was able to go back and touch on that Netflix anthology, and you can actually see, like, look what I said the last time. Look what I said the last time. And now when you look at it chronologically or retroactively, it's like, damn. So if he dropped this one 3 years ago, oh man, it would have been a whole lot more noise. But I think that what he did was he kept punching that arm till at some point it created a level of cognitive dissonance where now it's not as much pain. Now you can actually get past the hurt and listen to the stories. And he was able to leverage that story of Daphne, his trans friend that passed away. And the way that he leveraged it was so dope. He could have said a long time ago, yeah, I got a gay friend. He didn't have to.
But I don't really interrupt. He's mentioned her before. I think matter of fact, I think he mentioned her in Sticks and Stones.
It was in Sticks and Stones, but in terms of his conversations about, LGBTQ plus, right? I don't even think it was a plus back then in that time. But anyway, in terms of him mentioning it, he was able to give a really distinct story, and he was able to kind of give his detractors an FU and stating, listen, this is somebody I know. This is somebody I didn't just patronize. This is somebody that I learned from, that I respect, and I gained so much love. And that person was great for us, and that person passed away. And as crazy as it was, the joke that he gave at the end, he said, I know you guys probably think that I'm horrible for this joke, but guess what? That's the honor that Daphne would have wanted, and she would have respected. So he kind of played a trick. I don't think they're bullying him. I think that they're debating within themselves of what's horrible and what's comedy now, because he's been touching those topics so much that now it's. I don't think they're bullying him. So that was my long ass no.
Okay, Chef, what do you before we give it to King? What do you think about them actually trying to petition to get the show pulled off of Netflix?
Listen, there's people that sign petitions to make a donkey the mayor of the city. You get what I'm saying? You got this is the GoFundMe generation.
Very much so.
Do I honestly believe that? People are gonna do it. There's gonna be people that incense. Some of those people that didn't get the punch the 8th or 9th time. This may be only their 2nd time, so they're still reeling from the pain and not being able to separate comedy and juxtaposition of facts, from a different funny perspective. So once they get past that pain portion, it may be the part of the specials that he does when he goes to Stars, where they'll get that cognitive dissonance to be able to just take the joke. But I don't feel that he's being bullied right now. I don't think so.
And every jump, I'm gonna jump on this just because, Chef. When I said yes, they're being bullied, it was for that particular reason right there. Going back to them asking for him, petitioning for him, for Netflix, to have him that special removed. I think that is bullied. Like you're trying to throw your weight on in order to do it. I don't think Dave Chappelle is bullied himself. I don't, obviously, because he's very aware of what his words mean and how his words come across. He's very aware of that, I believe. So when I say bullying, when you try to get a person's job or their livelihood affected by what they say, then in this day and age, I would consider that to be attempting to be a bully.
And when you bully, if I give my opinion and I say I don't like Carlos because of something that he does or a joke that he told or what have you, and I talk to other people that may feel the same way, right? We're giving our opinion, and if we say something or write some petition because we happen to feel the same way about you, I don't think it's bullying, right? Like, for instance, LGBTQ plus, did they elect like a president or do they have a pope or anything like that? Like,
no idea.
I'm being facetious when I say it. So when I say that, you know what I'm saying? When I say that, it's like, in terms of bullying as a group, if I was part of a gang or I was part of a fraternity and we made some specific concerted led effort to execute on folks, right?
Carlos is an alpha, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't want you think it was the blood.
No, I figured as much. I wasn't going to ask.
It could be both. We don't know. I'm from Brooklyn.
Right, in this day and age, right.
But, so the thing is, in terms of bullying, is there some central figure, some major leader that's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're the red team, go. Take him out. Blue team, go. Take the shot. It doesn't work like that. So when I say bullying, I would look at it as a concerted effort. Is there people that are pissed off? Oh yeah, there's people that are pissed off, but in the grand scheme of things and at this point that we moved through in terms of comedy, it's not as much of a groundswell that's going to make a difference. You know why? They can go and pull it off of Netflix. The money's been made. The money's been made. That was the final installment on a contractual obligation. Right. He finished it early and gave them all of their food. So they're not stopping nothing. Netflix is a Hollywood studio at this point. They ain't stopping nothing. So do I feel like he's being bullied? Bully what? You know what I mean? Yeah, I got the check already. I got the check.
King, do you think that the LGBTQ plus community has a bullying factor in it? Do you think they bullied Dave Chappelle, or do you think other times they have gotten together with a mob-like mentality and have bullied people who would disagree with them? Say like a Kevin Hart.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because that community is not a monolith. So if you look at the articles, it's a particular sect in that community.
It's my favorite.
There's no, so yeah, not all. There's a particular group within that community that is actually doing that to him. So it would be disingenuous to say the whole LGBTQ plus community is bullying him. That's like saying all black people are still. No, that black person stole from you, right? We want to make sure we identify that it's not the whole community. So I want to say no because I'm not dealing with absolutes. But that particular organization within that community, are they bullying him? They're making a futile attempt to hurt him. That's what they're trying to do. But they can't bully someone that's already paid. You don't affect his finances. You don't affect his livelihood. So you can't bully anybody. You're screaming for attention, right? Because your community hasn't supported you, hasn't said, okay, we all agree that we want this particular group to represent us. They can't do that, right? They're not monoliths. Just like Latinos are not Latinos, Latinx, Latine, all the terms, they're not monoliths, right? Blacks, African, I'm African. I'm not every African does listen to Afro beats, right? So like this is what it is, but you can't say that whole community is bullying him because that group wants attention.
Someone made a comment. What's up, Black Rain? Made a comment that was very interesting, right? We all know Chappelle is larger than life. There's not much you can do to him or about him except for, type in all caps, right? If you disagree. But Black Rain made a great point. There is a large, right, area of the LGBTQ that can stop your money if you're not the GOAT, if you're not Chappelle. And Black Rain mentioned they have the power to prevent someone from making money. They do. The Baby, which is a rapper, stood on his stance until he saw the power they have to stop his bag. Now, that's true. The Baby said a couple comments about the LGBTQ community, and they started canceling his shows and his concerts. So what about when that happens, when someone's not as big and as valuable as Chappelle?
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because I just want to make what did the Baby say? Because I've heard this going on several times. What did he say?
I don't have the exact quote, and I don't want to misquote.
Yeah, because I think that's going to be the question here about his situation versus what Dave Chappelle is doing. If the Baby says something specifically toward the LGBTQ plus community that is a direct reflection of everything that we're talking about of being humane, then I'm sure they came at him with all guns blazing. This special, again, was not that. So I think that there has to be some distinction as to that. From that point, they're not canceling. Netflix Chef made a good point. Netflix ain't canceling a damn thing with regards to Dave Chappelle at this point. They've made their money off him 10 times over. And so not only that, again, they have to look at what was said and then make a judgment decision. I don't think that they're going to do that. You had a King.
Yeah, he reportedly said, if you didn't show up today with HIV/AIDS or any of them deadly sexually transmitted disease that'll make you die in 2 to 3 weeks, then put your cell phone light in the air.
Because he was saying, put your lights up. He said,
if you didn't show up today with HIV/AIDS or any of them deadly sexually transmitted diseases that make you die in 2 to 3 weeks, then put your cell phone light in the air with a call and a response. What rappers do to make sure the crowd is participating.
Right.
Let me get the next part.
Okay.
He came in after that. He was like, ladies.
Oh, there's more.
Because
it was a call and response. He was actually going to be doing a song.
Yeah,
so he was like, you go ahead.
He said, ladies, if your pussy smell like, can I say, if lady, if your smells like water, put a cell phone light in the air. He continued, fellas, if you ain't sucking in the parking lot, put a cell phone light in the air.
Okay.
If you ain't sucking, you know, for ladies, whatever.
Again, directly, it sounds like
she blinks. She's Jen. Don't ever play poker with me because you said so many things with your facial expression. Oh my gosh.
It sounds like he was going after Little Nas X, not the entire community. It sounds like he had issue with Little Nas X.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that one.
Yo, she is funny, man. She is funny. That's
right. So you know, it is true. They can stop a bag. Now I want to take this back to comedy. So I have to start with you, comedian Carlos Anthony out of Las Vegas, my favorite comedian. Okay. People, everybody watching. I think comedians are sacred because they are literally the artists on this planet who make us laugh at pain, right? What would we do without comedians, right? They make us laugh at our pain. And I always say, if you can't laugh at something that happened to you, you're still not over it. You're not over it. Because I've had some of the worst things that you can imagine happen to me. I don't look like it, but I have. And I'm like, I can make a joke out of it now to the point where my friends are like, how's that funny? And then we all laugh together, right? So, you know, so are there things, even though it's funny, comedy is comedy, are comedians untouchable? Is there such thing as going too far? Are there subjects that are off limits, or are comedians the speakers of all evil and they can make a punchline out of anything and we have to leave them alone? How do you feel about that as a comedian, Carlos?
As a comedian, I believe that we are the voice for what you just said, those things that individuals go through, and we try to find comedic ways to make people see, and I think it may have been Chef or said it earlier, see things from a different perspective, that we would have been like, oh, damn, I wasn't thinking about it like that because I was going through that in that particular point in time in my life. I do believe, and I'm one, I don't speak about rape or raping women. I don't speak about sleeping with children and pedophilia to that degree, like that. Like I'm making light of, hey, shoot, that is okay, because I think those things are to me are off limits. When I hear comics do that, that is cringeworthy to me, and especially if you've been out in the comedy scene like I have, and you hear these open mics, you're like, damn, you really gonna go with that? Like that's what you're going with out in this world. But people have artistic perspective of how they want to get their art across. We also understand in this day and age that things are different and that people are going to find issue or take issue when you take those routes to go down that road. And those things come with a consequence, unfortunately, in this day and age where you can't get counseled, you can't get your bag stopped, you can't be put out of different clubs because they don't want that type of environment in their club for you to be speaking about it. So I don't think that anyone is off limits, but I believe you better be damn good at your artistic value, if that's what you're going to talk about. You got to be at a Dave Chappelle or a Richard Pryor or those levels to be able to be like, oh man, I can say this and just get away with it because look who I am. It's not that type of world right now. So it's a very slippery slope, but I think we should have artistic value and be able to say what we want to say based off of our life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about historical resonance. You know, when you talk about comedians and you revert the comedian back to their counterpart in medieval times, right? They were a truly critical part of the kingdom because they were the court jester. You know, remember the Harlequin? They were the court jester. They were the one that was there, even during times of war, even during times of pain, death, destruction. They were the clown that would dance a jig and do something funny, do something stupid, just to keep the king within positive spirits. The comedian slash court jester saved a lot of lives from the guillotine. They saved a lot of lives. They created a level of laugh and broke tense moods within the king that may have allowed him to temper his justice with mercy, because he had an opportunity to have a laugh in, you know, in a ultimately negative situation. So should comedians be untouchable because of what they do? You know, you think about the old comedians, the Henny Youngmans, and a lot of them, especially the comedians, Jack Benny's, the ones that came through the Great Depression. Imagine being a. That's why the movies became so big, because the Great Depression, we needed an escape. We needed to have an opportunity to laugh, no matter what the laugh was about. So I believe comedians are so important because of the fact that they do that lens switch, and it actually allows us to loosen things up and actually look at how foolish that we look, where it's almost like comedians tend to turn it, and you're a comedian, Carlos, and one of the skills that you guys have is to turn the mirror at me and show me the comedy in something that I do every freaking day, and I didn't realize it. That's in order to do that at a high level, that's a genius level intellect, which means that that person could have also utilized that talent in a different way that may have been of a heavy impact. So we have to respect what the comedians do, because what makes them great is the thing that they do that we would not have expected from regular normal people. And the best joke is the one that the punchline that you didn't expect. So we need to make them untouchable. We need to be able to have self-deprecating experiences and laugh at ourselves, and be able to feel comfortable with other people laughing at us too. You know, what is one of the things they tell you, get on stage if you're really nervous? Just think about the whole crowd is naked out there, right? Or just dumb. What's going to happen is it's pulling them down from that level of power, so that we're all able to create this, you know, this situation where we can all laugh, and me trying to figure out ways to make you laugh. So comedians are important, man. Very important. They're needed.
King, what do you feel? Are comedians untouchable? Should they be able to say whatever they want to say, make light of anything and everything?
I think that's a luxury reserved for only certain comedians. You're right. That's a luxury.
He's always jumping up on my list. I'm like, I was gonna do race next, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's a reserved for certain comedians, meaning that you have to have paid your dues, and you have to let people know what were your intentions for these jokes with your years of work, your body of work. Your body of work shows me your intentions, and if your words should be validated. So with that being said, Dave Chappelle has shown me through his body of work that he has the right to do those socio-political jokes that invoke introspection. He earned that right from me. I don't know about y'all three, but he earned that right from me.
Well, I'll vote for that too. I'll vote for that too. Now let me throw Gary Owen at you. Is it Owen or Owens?
It's Owen.
Yeah. Owen, Gary Owen. What about Gary Owen making all the black jokes because he had a black wife? How do you feel about that?
Because he has a black wife?
Uh-huh.
Had. He's
in the process. Yeah, a lot of his comedy was based on having a black wife and being in a black family.
Right. Yeah, he was actually telling the truth though, right? And if you know about Gary Owens, from what I know about him, he's been on a lot of black comedy circuits, right?
He's been on the black comedy. I don't. Well,
yeah. So to me, through his body of work and where he has performed at, he has the right to talk about his truth, which really was had a black wife, right? How he talks about it was developed through him being on the black circuit. So he earned that from me. I don't think he's that funny, so that's why I won't. But he earned the right to talk about it. Did he earn my money and my time to sit down and watch him? I don't think so.
That's fair.
Yeah, but he earned the right. He didn't earn my time and my money. No.
When I look at Gary Owen comedy, though, his approach is more or less, it's a smart approach. Is he really making fun of black people? No, he's making more self-deprecating humor based on him attempting to assimilate into his black family and into blackness. It doesn't seem like he's coming out there and just literally making foolish caricatures of our people. It seems as though he's speaking to the humor in him being a Caucasian man and the situations that he's come into with black people. So it's almost like anecdotal, but funny as well, where you can see the humor in those situations. So that's why I don't think that there's been any groundswell for people to cancel him or remove him, because it's more so he's making light of the situation in himself. Now, Carlos, this is your arena. Maybe I could be wrong in terms of what
I've had the opportunity to work with Gary on a couple of occasions, and which means we've had a couple of conversations, and I've seen his comedy on stage live, having just come off stage, and he goes on, and I've seen him, obviously on his specials and comedy shows. I do believe that Gary's talking about his experience is from his wife and the kids and things of that nature, and his dealings with being on the black circuit. And so, having said that, his point of view is from a white perspective, like you just said, assimilate into a black, trying to assimilate. Let me be fair, trying to assimilate into black culture. We as black people have allowed him to do that. And we've allowed him to do that for many years. That has been his thing. It's his primary audience is black people. So I don't think it's a negative against him. I think it's something that that's just been who he was his entire life. So he's gained the audience of being black people being his major audience.
It reminds me of Michael Rappaport. He grew up down the block from us. And he went to literally. Yeah, he is, and
we see that all the time.
Went through it.
Yeah, we see that frequently, and it's always a bunch of black folks, and then there's one white person that just happens to get thrown in. You're like, where the fuck did you come from? And then we just accept him because that's who he was. Now we still don't let him go too far down the road. But we look at him, we see him just like every other black person that's in the house. Now, is that correct? I don't know. That's just something. That's just the way life has been.
It's the infamous invite to the barbecue. All right, gentlemen. So we are at the end of right under an hour and a half, and I have other commitments, so I have to bounce. I want to leave everyone watching. Please watch the closer and make up your own mind. Okay, we cannot be a rabid culture where we're just getting set off and given ideas and being evoked to anger by captions and things like that. I still think Chappelle is the genius. Comedian Carl Santi still my number one comedian. Second, Chris Rock. So thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen. As always, having the grown and sexy conversation with respect. I want to shout out Chef Choupino.
You got it.
And Conversations with King, Conversations with the letter K. They have a great show going on together on Conversations with King. Please follow them, subscribe, also subscribe, and tell people if you like this conversation and you saw we weren't at each other's throats. A lot of us who communicate like this aren't going to have 1 million subscribers because there's no beef here. So please share this with your families, subscribe to us, hit the notification bells, and let people know about us and join our panel. Join us. We love to hear the conversations because we're trying to create what we want to be a part of, and what we want to be a part of is mature conversation, even when there's disagreements. So I will give you all to do. Thank you all so much. Chef or King, if you want to leave us with any words really quickly before I bounce, please, you're welcome to.
All I got at this point is, let's move towards everything that we do, every person that we meet, with a level of respect, consideration, and understanding. And that's all it takes. You just start with those. It may not work every time, but you know, at the end of the day, your life's gonna be a better thing to live. And that's all I got for you.
King?
Shout out to Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, straight up.
Shout out to the Bronx.
Oh boy.
Now let's shout out Arkansas. That sounds hard, don't it?
You know what's funny? The Bronx and Brooklyn are arguably the toughest boroughs in New York City. And I don't want to give no prison tales, but those are the two communities, when they're locked up together, they have this healthy respect, because it's like it's the weirdest thing in the world. We look at them, we like, oh, that's the dirty Bronx. They're like, oh, you from Brooklyn out. But there's a healthy respect of integrity and toughness. So, but I have to say, if you grew up in the Bronx and you start to survive the Bronx, you could survive anything. It's a different place. It's a different place. Like Brooklyn, we have like the Brownsville, the 90s, that's horrible. But you could say the entire Bronx was a journey. It's an odyssey. It's a different type of situation.
I did 2 years in high school. 2 years in high school at a school called Fordham Prep. It was on Fordham. Yeah, and I used to ride the 4 train from the beginning stop on Utica, ride that baby all the way to Masholu Parkway.
Whew.
From end to end.
Okay, Carlos, any parting words before we say goodnight?
Just be humane. I mean, I think that's the point I'm gonna end with. Is that too hard to ask people? Is just to think of how you want to be treated, and then treat people according to how you want to be treated. Is that too much to ask these days? I think if people start thinking in that aspect consciously, then we can get back together. What I was speaking about earlier, get together on how we actually rise and get beyond everything else that's going on with minorities in this country. I think we'll get behind that. Yes. Outside of that, make sure y'all follow me on Comedian Carlos on Instagram. Comedian Carlos on Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel as well, Comedian Carlos Anthony. Comedian Carlos Anthony on Facebook. Come out to a show if y'all in town.
And if we were talking too fast, I'm gonna put everybody's YouTube page in the caption in the bottom. Give me a few minutes and I'll shout everybody out in case we were talking too fast and you don't feel like rewinding. Watch The Closer. Do something nice for somebody that you don't know. Yeah. And with that, I will say good night, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me. It was a pleasure, and I hope to see you on the panel yet again. Good night, everybody.
Peace. Thanks for having us.
Hey guys, this was another amazing episode of On the Block with Jen. Please subscribe, hit the like or unlike option, whichever one is good for me. And if you like this, please let your friends know and come back. And we would like to see new fresh faces on the panel. Vaughn, I see you. Thank you for being here. And don't forget objections. I do objections a couple days a week with Talk with Frank Gooden, the Talk with Frank Gooden page with Frank. So we do that as well. That's a debate show. So that one gets hot and heavy. Okay, there's a lot of verbal fisticuffs, but always with respect, and we always leave on a high note. So thank you for your support, guys. Let's grow the channel if you like what you see, and I don't just mean me. All right, guys, good night. Peace.